This is the What's Next podcast, Houston's #1 platform, where I invite creatives to share their journeys and give us a depiction of their visions. Most importantly, the last question I'll ask is, what's next?
Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." Dear John, the iconic legend Quincy Jones said, "To know where you came from makes it easier for you to get where you're going." Sean Diddy Combs said, "Everyone has challenges and lessons to learn. We wouldn't be who we are without them." If 2018 and the last 6 years taught you something, it's that anything is attainable with the right focus and determination. Continue to build. Continue to promote your vision. Continue to inspire creativity and make more creatives. In closing, Nas said, "No idea is original. There's nothing new under the sun. It's never what you do, but how it's done. The first chapter of your vision's movements is done. However, you're still a visionary. Peace and blessings. John Ross."
Yo, it feel like 95, Sachi on my body, Biggie, Jigga, Puffy, all that ballin' is a hobby, and I'm wildin' in my body.
Houston, Texas, welcome back to episode number 34 of the What's Next podcast, a production of Still Visionary Inc. T, the last time we talked was episode number 18. Okay. Since going to LA, I've now started a thing where I want to let my guests or let the creatives introduce themselves before I introduce myself. So go ahead.
Hi, I am Tempestt. I don't really know what to say.
Social media.
Okay, Tempestt lives. I have Instagram. I don't say now. Well, Instagram is like my main social media handle, and I have like a TikTok. I have TikTok.
What is that?
And
what is that?
It's a new social media, kinda. And really, they say our youth, like the youth now, is really into it. Okay. But I follow this guy, Gary V, and he's encouraging more people to go onto TikTok and create. So I have, I've only put one little video there, but I'm gonna start dropping something on there every Friday. It's kind of a surprise type deal, but my first real video should be up on this Friday coming up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and everything is Tempestt Lives. All of my social media handles are Tempestt Lives.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my name is John Ross Dike I. You can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at John Ross Dike and still _visionary. If you would, connect with me on LinkedIn, subscribe to my YouTube channel, like my fan page on Facebook, and visit my website at stillvisionary.com.
You got like a million of them. Bro, you got nearly as many. I do. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I forgot to say TempestLives.com. Clearly, where my blog.
I've since started putting that on the episodes that I talk about it.
Oh yeah.
So I got to make sure that Houston, Texas. This is my editor again. We did episode number 18, Miseducation, a while ago, and I want to talk about that before we even get started. First of all, I want to say rest in peace to my baby boy, John Ross Dike II. The last time that we did episode, we were together on the podcast. He was here with us, but he's since transitioned and he's back with the Lord. So rest in peace to him. Yes. Rest in peace to the child of Jarius and Jessica Smith, and rest in peace to Corey Bright. Corey, my fault, man. I mispronounced your daughter's name. Corey Bright, my homeboy, he had a daughter. She passed away a while ago, a couple of years ago. So rest in peace to her and to everybody else who's lost somebody.
Yes.
So episode number 18, Miseducation. Since then, I've been to LA, and I'm back here now just trying to keep the podcast going. But what was I saying? I said I was going to say something before. What was I saying? You remember what I was saying?
No.
I said I was going to say something. I was going to say something before I started off with the RIPs.
I don't know. We were talking about social media handles.
Tempestt.com. Okay, TempestLives.com. Okay, it'll come to me. Maybe it'll come to me.
It will.
So how are you?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. Busy.
Busy.
But in a very good way.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, since the last time, because this was a thing that him and I talked about before we did Miseducation, he was like, come on, you're my editor. You could talk about the stuff that you're doing, this and that. And I was like, look, at this point, I really don't have a lot that I've produced.
Yeah.
I really don't have anything. I write, but I don't put anything out, et cetera, et cetera. And he's like, that doesn't matter. Just come on.
Well, the reason why I said that is because creativity is not just what you've done. It's what you're trying to do, trying to get done. And I think a lot of creatives waste time with trying to make it perfect at first. Nothing's perfect.
Right.
You just got to get out there, get going, get the ball going. Yeah. And then it'll snowball. And as you go, as people see it, as you trust the right people to come in and give you critiques, then it gets stronger and it gets better. So I think people are more worried about it being perfect when they're getting ready to drop, as opposed to saying I dropped it, because you got to get somewhere, you got to start from somewhere.
Absolutely.
Right. So that was my only thing. You don't have to have had something done right then and there. It's just the whole process of I'm creating this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And I was in the process. I had been in the process of for a while of like dropping my own, like having my own blog out. I did it several times before in the past, and it really didn't catch, or maybe my consistency wasn't there, however you want to say it, but I didn't get there. And so shortly after the blog, the podcast, I start working on my blog more to just get it out there. And I was thinking, I need someone to design my website. When you talked about that, this and that. So look, y'all, I said, you know what? I really can't pay for nobody. I'm just being real. I can't pay for anybody to design this website. It's really, I bought a theme. I paid for everything else. Let me just try to get on here and do the best I can to design, set it up, and then I'll go ahead and drop it. So basically, literally, I pulled up like how to set up the theme, etc., printed it all out, got on WordPress and Bluehost and all this. And step by step, I put it together so that I could have a place to call my own that's on the World Wide Web. And I did it. I dropped it.
For sure.
And so far it has been a very great journey. I knew that initially my plan was not to go back into teaching. This year coming up, I wasn't going to do it because I just wanted the time to focus.
Watch your hands.
Sorry, my bad. My bad. So I wanted the time to like focus on just really me and my kids, because that's really, so I wanted the freedom to do that. And so I was like, I'll blog, and I said I would teach online. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're like so it's the bottom of the ninth. I'm just tell y'all. So it's almost the end of the summer. Nothing, like everything is in the works, but nothing is there, right? And I do yoga, and so I went to yoga class, and one of my instructors I really love, she told me, she said, I was talking to her about everything that haven't worked and like some other stuff that was going on in my life, and I was like, I don't know what to do. She said, you know what, just go, like really have a moment with God, or however people address their higher being, and see where you're at, like see what he got you to do. And so that's what I did. I just like, breathe. Let me just see. First thing that came into my mind was to go back to teaching. I was like, what? No.
Yeah.
That's not the thing that I wanted to hear. But I felt like it was divine order. But I will say this as well. As I was doing that, like I said, I was able to get my blog up and running. And I also still got hired online to teach overseas. So I have all three of those things in the works. And the most thing that I'm proud about, because I naturally love teaching. So I'm at a school that I love, but I'm really proud about TempestLives.com, because I feel like it's really going to be what I want it to be.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's going to get there. And you can check it out. It's up. It's post on there. I'm very real. I'm very candid about the things that go on in my life. But the point of the blog is to help people to see something real. And I give tidbits on, okay, if you're here in your life, or if you've been here, this is how I handle it. and I give people ways to, like tidbits on how maybe they can handle some of the situations in their lives, because it's really a self-help blog. And so I talk to my brother about this all the time. I'm like, I feel like I need a niche. I feel like I need like a audience, like a target, like who am I targeting? And for the longest, I have strayed away from saying that I'm a single mother. Like for the longest, I'm like, I do not want to create a platform that's just like single moms, because I don't just associate with single moms. I have friends who are moms, they're married, and I have friends who have no children at all, not married, no children, nothing, and we're able all to vibe off the same premise of just things that go on in our lives.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I stay in a single household, but my kids' fathers, they're very much involved, and shout out to them because they're great men, great fathers. They're very much involved in my children's lives. And so I just thought maybe I would be kind of pigeonholing myself, like putting myself in a box if I said, oh, this is for single moms. Since then, I've had the revelation that it's okay for me to say that. And it's okay for me to have that pocket, because like I said, I do function majority of the time in my home with just me and my kids. And I don't know if y'all can see how empty it is around here, but I'm just saying, ain't nobody. It's me, my kids, and my pup. And I do have things for single moms. I have things for moms. I have things for people. So if you just want to come in and see what I got going on, I'm an avid reader, so I do try to reference the things that I read and the things that I learn outside of myself, and I try to give just my life into others so that it could be an inspiration for them to move on and work through certain things.
Well, what I wanted to say, you got the divine, I guess, what am I looking to say? You were, I guess, the Lord spoke to you and said, go back to education. I've said this to myself, and I've heard people on podcasts refer to this. I heard Joe refer to this on his podcast. I've heard other people talk about this on his podcast. But Houston, Texas is just a different atmosphere than the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas the creatives in other cities have that abundance of opportunity, we are busy here making our own.
Yes.
So for
Very
me,
true.
when we first did the teacher orientation back in 2015, though I knew that teaching wasn't gonna be my career,
Right.
it's transitioned into that. But at the same time, I would be foolish not to be getting some kind of bread until that real dough comes in. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I don't think it was for me to be like, nah, you might not want to leave teaching, right?
Right.
Because of the fact that you got to do what's best for you in that time period. So when we did the video for the online teaching thing, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this is it. Right now, when you start off as a creative, man, unless you got that Illmatic, Reasonable Doubt, So Far Gone. What other classic albums put people on initially? Unless you got that.
And but even then, like we don't know the work before that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
Like
what
like it's
Unless
all
you
coming
get
from
on,
somewhere.
We don't have a platform like Hot 97, and this is no knock to our city. We're just trying to create that where we can go and we can just rap and then get on like this. We don't have that. So for the rest of the world, that's suitable for them to do, to be able to, hey, you know what? I'm quitting my job tomorrow. If I quit my job tomorrow, there goes my marriage.
She out, bro.
There goes my marriage. Like my wife would be like, listen, I think I was talking to that podcast I was telling you about, right? We were talking and I told my wife, unless you want to eat ramen noodles, this is a 2-income household, right? So ain't nobody quitting their jobs until one of the incomes that we make covers for both of us.
Very
you understand what I'm saying? So, that was a nugget that I had to say about just you're transitioning into a new career, right? So, I mean, you got to do what you got to do at the end, and it'll come to you when it comes to you, right? So Tempestt Lives. I remember in episode 18, I said to you, we're going to help you market that. We're going to talk about it. And so I have to apologize because initially I said tempestlivs.org and I put that in my computer and it wasn't the right one, so I had to come back and correct it. It's tempestlivs.com. Let's talk about the inception of that. Let's talk about the inception. Have you talked about that?
No, I don't like the breeding ground.
Yeah. Like what was the initial thought, the moment of creativity where you were just like, I want to put this here?
Okay, so I'll say this. I've been on this journey for a while now.
Okay.
I've started and I talk about this on my blog. I think maybe like probably my very first post.
The one where you threw your bed away?
No, that's the second one. See how he just airing it out, nigga? I ain't gonna. Yeah, I did throw my bed away. I have since gotten a new one.
Yeah.
Okay.
We you gonna see that video coming soon.
But yeah, it was the very first one. I talked about like how I had started and stopped, and y'all like no lie. If y'all go check out my Instagram stories, they are extremely cray. And so I talk about a lot of the stuff there too. I just, give hints of like what's going on like in my realm, in my world. And I started, stopped. So it became, when I first got the inkling about blogging or anything of the sort, I think it was fairly new. And it was probably like 2010. This is probably right on the onset of everybody like I'm gonna be a blogger, this and that, and people making millions of dollars doing this, blogging, vlogging, et cetera. And I said, oh, I'm gonna try this and that. So I drop a blog, and it was about my daughter and I. All right. And it was cool. But like I said, then, man, I was fresh out of college. It was me and my daughter. I'm like, look, I gotta make some bread. So then I was blogging, but I was like in extreme hustle mode. So then I was probably holding like, I never had anything less than 2 jobs at that time in my life. Like it wasn't even thinkable for me to only work like 1 job and whatever. So I was like severely hustling this and that. I started that, let it go. And I think I did that like 2 or 3 times. This last time that I said I was going to do it, I said, no, this is it. This is going to be my baby. I'm going to do this for me, because I've noticed that I've did a lot of things and for other people.
Yeah.
And I've given a lot of my time and just my soul to like other people and what they wanted to do, whether it was my kids, whether it was just the people at school, some pockets of what's going on in my family, etc. And at the end of it, I could never say that I just had something for me. You know what I mean? And I'm a creative, and I've been writing since, and I think we did talk about that in the first podcast. Yeah, I've been writing since I was a kid, and I started journaling when I was in high school, like my 10th or 11th grade year in high school. And that's always been my outlet. And I just write. I probably did my first poetry performance my second year in college. And so, but I never just gave myself the space to really spread my wings and fly. You know what I mean? I always was battling with, well, you need to do this, or you got to do this, or you have a kid. Oh, now you got 2 kids, this and that. And then finally I said, no, this is enough. If I keep going down this road of starting and stopping and not really putting in the effort, then I'm never going to gain the momentum, and I'm never going to really escape. You know what I'm saying? Just, like, really get out of this pull and push, this tug, and I said, no, I'm done with that. Like I'm going to do something that I want to do, and I'm going to put the effort and the time into it so that I can make it what I want it to be. And every week I sit down with it at least once a week, just with everything. I'm sitting in the middle of my floor at my desk, papers everywhere, my blogging binder is up, the site is up, and I'm like, what do I need to do? How can I make this better? What do I need to write? What do I need to do? And what's the next piece to this puzzle until it becomes exactly what I want it to be or what it needs to be. And I don't want to just say because at the end of the day, I kid y'all not, I rehearse in my mind the things I'm going to tell people to help them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, oh, if I could help them do that would be great. Yeah. And if I could help them do this, that would be great. And I, sometimes I know exactly what pocket of people I'm talking about or what person, and sometimes I don't know. It's just general, like, man, if more people had access to this information, or if they thought about it like this could help them just move smoothly throughout this wonderful journey that we call life. And that's really why I'm here. And I feel like if I don't do that, then I'm shortchanging myself. And the rest of the world. Like legit. Because I do feel like that's just something that's like threaded through me. To know that my existence is not just for me, that is for someone else. And so as I mentioned this on my blog too, you know, as I'm growing, I hope that I'm helping someone else grow. So it's not just here, you do this. Hey, we're doing this. You know, I live, we live, Tempestt lives.
Tempestt lives. Is that I live, we live, Tempestt lives?
Well, that's what I put on at the bottom of all my posts that I post on Instagram, like in my hashtags. I always.
That's dope. Yeah, that's dope. So, you know, one thing that we didn't talk about last episode with you saying that you're an avid reader, I think that it may have occurred after. I was listening to the Joe Budden podcast, right? And they had mentioned rest in peace, Toni Morrison. Now, although I never read anything that she wrote or knew who she was, I do remember seeing her quote on the back of the Me Against the World book, or the book you told me to read. Between the World and Me. So so when I heard them say rest in peace to Toni Morrison, I couldn't connect to any of her work, but I was like, oh, she wrote on the back of his book that everybody needs to read the book.
Right.
How her influence on you? Talk about that.
So I'll say this. Let me say this. She was an immaculate spirit, right? Okay. Now I can't say any like direct influence, but being an English teacher, of course, like she's one, like she has like a lot of classics, or The Bluest Eye. That classic. The
what?
The Bluest Eye.
The Bluest Eye.
I think I'm saying that correctly.
Okay.
And so, if not, edit it out. No, just playing. No, just kidding. All right, I'm just saying. So anyway, but it was a quote that I seen by her at some point, and it basically, I can't repeat it verbatim, but what it said was that as an African American artist, we're sometimes pushed to take the easy route and how we express ourselves. We're not pushed to be the most articulate or the most read or the most knowledgeable. We're kind of pushed to kind of be on the lower end on how we communicate. Just kind of like that pool, like the puppet pool. You know what I mean? Like, you do this because I want you to do this, and this is how you're going to draw people in. And we're not always pulled to be the most intellectual bunch, you know what I mean? And when I read that, and this is me saying what I got out of the quote. We'll find the quote and maybe he can put it at the bottom when I'll go back and get the quote. But when I read this particular quote, it hit me really hard, because I see now that everybody's pulled and pushed to put out a lot of different things. You know what I mean? And you got to be the fastest, the quickest, and it doesn't matter like the quality of it, you know, just put it out. Like, hey, put it out. Like it doesn't, and I feel like we're all in that, almost in that digital rat race, right? And when I read that, I said, you know what? I'm going to make sure that when I put things out, yeah, I may put my personality in it and whatever, but I want to make sure that I'm giving the best quality of work from my stance of being a reader, an avid reader, a writer, an intellect. You know, I want to make sure that I'm giving the world something, and women something, and my people something that speaks to, you know what, this is an intelligent woman that knows what she's talking about, that possesses that authority, you know what I'm saying, and that agency that says, I'm here and I can move mountains with my words, with my actions, with just my mere disposition, right? And I feel like sometimes that is lost. Even seeing just being in a realm where I'm working with our youth on a daily basis, and just seeing what's kind of put on a pedestal nowadays. And it's no shade. Like I admire all hustles. You see what I'm saying? Like I do, no doubt. But it's sometimes you don't want certain aesthetics to be lost just in the shuffle. And I think she had a very good like a grip on that part within herself and sharing that with the world, just not losing, the grip of just, hey, I have the agency, the authority, and the intellect to be this person and share it unapologetically. Because sometimes I feel like we have to be, I do know that, but I'm sorry, no disrespect to this. You know what I mean? We always have to give like some type of disclaimer for what we know or who we are. And I felt like she spoke towards not having to do that and just owning you in whatever capacity that means and however it serves you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What song's on your mind right now?
Ooh. All right. So listen up, y'all. Let me tell y'all. One, y'all know I'm avid. Like I love J. Cole. I talked about it last podcast. Love J. Cole. However, this summer, Big Crit dropped an album. Have you listened to that man album? Look, y'all, that is a solid album from start to finish. And plus, he has this Southern vibe in it. And I'm like, okay, Big Crit. Now, I'm saying this because I've been to like one of this dude's concerts. And the first time I went, I probably hadn't listened to one Big Crit song. I went with my homegirl. She is a huge Big Crit fan. And I went with her. We was in Austin, having fun, this, and that. I'm like, all right, cool, blah, blah, blah. And then just slowly, like I'm such a J. Cole fan that sometimes it blinds me to other artists. Like it's kind of ridiculous, but it is true. But I hit play on that Big Crit album and I have not been able to let it go. Now, that's an album. He said, what song? All right. So, due to my tunnel vision of J. Cole, I've also been sleeping on my boy Big Sean. Okay. And so he had a song with DJ Khaled. Okay. It was and Kendrick Lamar. Okay. And I wish I could show y'all. Y'all want to see? Because I've been listening to it. I listen to it almost every day. Holy Key. Okay. It is by far one of my favorite songs. Like one of the best songs I've ever listened to.
I thought you were going to go with a Big Crit song.
No, I wanted to tell y'all about the Big Crit album because I've been listening to that album too. But I do not listen to that album nearly as much as I listen to this Holy Key song with Big Sean. Okay. Big Sean's verse, I really feel like he's like summing up like the state, my mindset right now. Okay. Like, it's so dope. So dope. And he hits so many different pockets. Like he talks about, like he mentions being vegan. I'm not a vegan. However, I haven't eaten meat in a while. He talks about being vegan and he just talks about like he has that authority, like that aggressiveness of just like, hey, I'm not dealing, like he tells you straight up what he's dealing with and what he's not dealing with. Now, for you hip hop fans, I know that y'all know that this song is old, okay? But y'all cannot deny the lyrical genius behind Big Sean's verse because he puts it out there. And then he references one of my favorite authors and mindful thought leaders, Deepak Chopra. He doesn't say his name, but he references practicing seven spiritual laws. And that's one of Deepak Chopra's books. And it's a great book. And he says he's practicing the law of detachment. And that's a really, really, really very strong things for him to say, because the law of detachment says I'll put in the work, but I'm gonna detach from the outcome. And that, like, I don't, like, if y'all don't know, I'm gonna tell y'all that's big, because a lot of times we want to put in the work and we want to say what a work gonna go and how it's gonna look and what it's gonna be. We just can't let it go and let it grow. We have to be a part of every little part. But the law of detachment says, okay, put in the work, but be detached from what happens after that. It's like that energy. Like, you know, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. If you're really putting in that amount of work, then it goes back to that faith. You know what I mean? And faith, you have to release that because that's not up to you. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we fail to realize. The work part is up to us. Everything happens after that is not. And when we try to hold on, sometimes we block a path that we should that could be opened up for us because we only see where we want it to go. We're not open to all the different possibilities. And so when he says that, along with some other, you know what I'm saying, some other stuff he said, I'd be like, I'm right, Big Sean. And no doubt he's had his own personal evolution. Since I listened to that part, I've also like have gone into following him more and just seeing like where he's at, because I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I'm down with like the mindfulness, the consciousness, and just realizing like how this really works. You know what I mean? It's really not a I thing, it's really a we thing more than we realize. And so anyone that's preaching that and putting that out there, I do take a second look all the time. Yeah. So yeah.
So I'm gonna go the song that's on my mind right now is I'm gonna go with off that Big Crit album. I'm gonna go with Believe. Ooh. I would say the one with him and Cole, but I'm gonna save my second one. That's a new one. My old one, I'm gonna go with off of Nas's second LP. I'm gonna go with Nas Is Coming.
Okay.
I mean, you know,
but you know how much he loved Nas like I love J. Cole. It's just he can't.
Yeah. I'm a Nas head. Nas Is Coming and Believe.
Believe is great.
Yeah,
That's a great song.
It is. When I was listening to it, I was like, I listened to it the first time I heard. I listened to it 20 times. No lie.
I believe it.
No lie.
I believe it because it's that powerful. It's dope.
Yeah. I mean, it's yeah, and then what was the song with him and Cole? If you believe in it,
yes, it's the very next song.
Yeah, that song jams too. So I'm gonna go with those two. Okay, since we left off from the podcast, I before that episode had dropped, I was dedicating everything to my boy, right? And I think that after that, that was I was thinking if I can. Every moment that we spent, my wife and I spent this summer in the hospital was with him, right? Yeah. And so when I got a chance to step out, I was thinking, okay, I got to get the podcast done. I got to get the podcast done. And so after we got the news and he passed away, and we were still dealing with that, but we dealt with it back then. I said to myself, one thing that my son has taught me is resiliency. Okay. You got to be resilient in whatever you face, no matter the obstacles, no matter the bumps in the road. You got to be resilient for everything. So after that, I set out on a course to make sure that if I hadn't stated it before, that I was dropping every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time.
He is so consistent. He's so diligent.
I had to make sure that no matter what, I have to drop Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, and it becomes a job. It becomes a characteristic of yourself.
Yes, very nice.
After I drop this episode, my mind is already wondering what's next. What's the next episode? What's coming? Right? So I go to LA. I do 4 episodes out there over the course period of 2 weekends, right? And you being my editor, let's talk about that, and then we'll get into we'll talk about something else before we wrap the episode.
Okay, so when you first hit me up and you told me about your podcast and you told me episodes to go listen to, it wasn't that I wasn't impressed or I didn't like them. I was just like, okay, I can see where this is going. Let me tell y'all, from what I listened to in the beginning to now, I would like shout out to you. You have been very diligent and very consistent, and I can see how your podcast has grown exponentially just within a few months. Yeah. And I really think that's beautiful, especially thinking about what you and your wife have faced, and just in the face of that, like you've come out of that, or you're just working through it, and you're still keeping your spirits high and you're keeping yourself focused. And if that's not an inspiration to creatives everywhere, I don't know what is.
It takes a lot, man. I'll say that because even with the intro part that I now say at the beginning of the episode, my wife was like, you keep refuting everything he's saying. Like, it was my large brother that was just like, hey man, you got to kind of get right in there. You got to jump right in. And I was like, what do you mean? And we were going back and forth. And when I told my wife that, she was like, listen, you keep refuting. Just like when I tell you stuff, that's why I don't tell you nothing about the podcast, because you keep refuting everything I'm saying. So, sometimes the critiques can be overwhelming.
Yes.
Sometimes pride.
I'm so glad you listened to mine.
Pride gets in the way. But I think on episode 23, Resiliency, now streaming on all platforms, I said that my wife and you are the ones that are really helping me mold and put things together, piece by piece.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate
that.
that.
No doubt.
And any way that I can help, I'm willing, because you're definitely growing.
Well, listen. It's a part of, like, nobody. Illmatic wasn't just Nas.
Right.
I referenced that album because that was the album that changed his career.
Mm-hmm.
So Far Gone wasn't just Drake. He had help here and there. Reasonable Doubt wasn't just it wasn't just Jay. You know what I'm saying? So everybody needs that supporting cast to be able to handle the things that I'm not seeing. You know what I'm saying? I'm worried about the artistic side of it, but you also got to factor in, okay, well, what is being said? Is it being perceived the way you want it to be perceived?
Right.
So, everybody needs a team of some sort.
Yes.
That
is true. That's true. You seem like you got a pretty solid team.
Oh yeah, it's got some. I got to add more people to it. You know what I'm saying? But it's going.
You just keep doing. I mean, I just feel like you keep doing what you're doing,
yeah.
And it's gonna every piece of the puzzle that you need.
I need this podcast to be number one in the state of Texas.
Well, you keep putting that energy out there, friend. Because every time I hear him say so, the number one, I'm like, yup, that's JR. I know who that is. I know what podcast that is. And that's good, though. I mean, that's good. That means, you're setting that expectation, and no doubt, like, you're evolving to be that number one.
Yeah.
If not, you're already number one.
I need that number one spot. I need it. It's mandatory. So go on with what you were saying. I was just thinking, I'm over here looking at the computer, and I realized Big Sean just dropped another single. The single for his new project called Single Again, and that single. It's so hard. It's so you ain't heard it, have you? Well, when you get off the episode, you need to listen to it. It's dope. It's dope. Go ahead.
So I didn't know if you wanted to.
Yeah. Go ahead. Listen, like when I told 3, the studio that we'll be going to soon. I told 3 that my editor is gonna come in here, and you've got to be accepting of her personality because it's strong. You know what I'm saying? You got to be accepting of her personality, because if she ain't feeling something, she gonna say it. Yeah. And so when I throw TempestLives.com in the episode, for real, I got, of course I bring it to my wife, and then after that you need the next person that's, on the team to give you that, that, hey, switch this around. So yeah, no doubt. Go ahead.
But I went back and I checked out some more of your episodes, and y'all, let me say this. I love the fact that you have included more than just like an artist, like a painter, a writer, etc. Because that's one thing that we don't adhere to, and I tell my daughter this all the time because she always says, I'm not creative. I say, you may not be creative in painting or sculpting or drawing, etc. I said, but everybody, I was like, our creator gave us that. And everybody is creative in their own right and in their own way. And I could legit think about, once I realized that, and it was something that I read that made me realize that's just something that we possess. Once I read that, I started being way more mindful on how people possess their talents and how they create. And in that, I would like to say you did a great job of reaching out to people who do more than just podcasts or just writing, blogging, and books and stuff. Now the people, you done did some dope people too. But one of the episodes that you did, it was with, is her name Janae?
Janae.
It was she with the crafty drinks.
Yeah. Glamorous drinks.
I thought that was so cool. And when you first put it out, I was like, okay, JR, I like this scope. I like where you're going with this, because it really makes that umbrella where like no one feels left out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So hey, y'all, if he see y'all and y'all creating, it don't matter what you're creating. If he come and grab you, y'all just come on to the number one podcast in Houston.
It's like Carrie Hilson said one time. She was like, when she got that phone call from Nas, when he was trying to get that single Hero out, she was like, she dropped everything.
Right.
When that call come.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
My voice ain't as raspy when that call come though. Hey, it's yeah.
And so y'all go ahead and y'all get on there, because he's gonna do it right. It's not just about him, it's about really the city in the country and the world and whoever really seeing like, hey, this is what we're housing and this is what we have.
For sure.
And so I listened to that episode and I was like, this is really dope. And I listened to her evolution on how she decided that that's where she was going to go. And I've noticed a thread, like, you ask people, oh, what high school, what college or whatever. And it's like for creatives who don't just want to be caught in like the rat race, they want something of their own. They always go through that period of, damn, what do I do next? Like, what the hell am I about to make of this? And the fact that she found her lane and was able to say, you know what, I know I have this degree and I know I have this, or I thought I was going to do this, but hey, this is something that I have a passion for that I could really do. And I was just looking at her evolution, like being here, working at Papacitos, and, then getting into the club life and really grabbing hold to that hustle. And shout out to her, because I do know that hustle as well, because I used to bartend. And then like, okay, here I am in LA and I'm doing like, what am I going to do? And just going from like one gig to like her own thing. Like, I thought that was really dope. And now she makes like her own crafted like drinks that she's.
That's a whole joint out there. That's what she does.
That's nice.
Full time, I think.
And that's creative.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really you capturing the scope of being a creative. I like that.
Yeah.
And so I was looking at that episode, and can I talk about another one?
Yeah.
Okay. And so then it was another one. Y'all named it Big Boy Talk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, about the entrepreneur.
Let me talk about my guy, man. Oh man. You find yourself when you venture off, like I do a podcast. I'm a podcaster, I should say. And I find myself, that's all I listen to, podcasts. I mean, I have my main ones. I touch Joe's, of course, every week. Nori's I touch. I used to listen to Angela Yee's a lot. I listen to some psychology podcasts. I used to listen to a voice acting podcast.
That's nice.
But Mike, after we did that episode, I love to talk to Mike because you could tell he's well read. You could tell when he's in a room with people and the way he works the room, the way he talks, you can tell that he's just ahead of everybody else.
Right.
And I don't mean to insult anybody else. I'm just saying, I get that vibe. Like his ideals, his ideals and the way he talks and the way he rationales things is always different from everybody else. So I just enjoy every moment of time that I can get from him. So he's doing a podcast, and I can't wait to listen to it.
Oh, that's nice.
He's doing a podcast. I wish I could produce it, but I'm not in Dallas. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So yeah.
And man, his evolution, man, just with just being an entrepreneur. I mean, he started that journey when he was a kid.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really dope, being able to be in an environment where it's nurtured by example. You know what I mean? Because he was just talking about the hustle of his parents and how they were able to, hey, if I were you, I would do this. And he didn't have to do it, but he saw like, okay, well, maybe I will. And every time that he decided to, take that, okay, well, maybe I should do this, and he did it, it turned into something more for him. And I was looking at that. I was like, man, let me tell y'all, being in a room full of teenagers and they're already like, you know, when you ask them, hey, what are you going to do? And they're not saying, oh, I'm going to be a lawyer now. That's not what they're saying. They're not saying I'm going to be a doctor. They're not saying I'm going to go be an engineer. They're like, oh, I'm going to be a YouTuber. Oh, I'm going to be a, you know what I mean? I'm going to be a gamer. And at this point, you know, and once again, I don't knock it because people out here doing it and they're making a living for themselves easy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not saying it's easy. They still have to have those bases of consistency and going through the fire when you're not sure where the hell is going. You know what I'm saying? Like, or you don't look like everybody else, because it's natural for us to want to be a part of the pack. I mean, that's, you know, I mean, that's just part of our natural evolution that's been since the beginning of time. So when you feel like you're doing something that's going against the grain, it makes you feel like, well, damn, should I do this? You know. And he said something that was really pivotal, and like, once again, I always mention my brother, but my Malcolm. What is this? What's his social media handle? Malcolm X Green. I think it's Malcolm X Green. Okay, that's what it is. On Instagram.
That's you know, that's the best way. When I was rebranding, I just went to my original name, my real name.
And so, but him and I, we always talk about the part of being in the masses, being a part of the masses, is that you want to look like everybody else. You want to, you know what I'm saying? You want to have what everybody else have on, this, and that, and you don't care the cost. So when he said he had acquired this $250, etc., and his mom was like, oh yeah, you should buy a Coke machine. He like, what? That's definitely not what I was thinking about doing with. I was trying to get these Adidas not panning out, but I, you know, these J's. He like, you know, his mom was like, well, you sure? And just the fact that even at that age, that young of an age, he saw the vision of like, well, okay, you know what, maybe I'll let that go. Maybe I will try something else. And how that transitioned into the mobile car wash. And I was just like, well, this is dope. You know what I mean? Because when he said that he put out the information, 6 people got back with him, but one was like a corporate office, and he was able to make like $1,100 in 2 days. That's the type of thing that I like to tell my children about at school. That's the type of thing that my daughter's in her room right now. She's right there. She could tell you I preach entrepreneurship to her all the time. Because 10 years from now, it's not going to look like it's not gonna look like what we were raised to say. Okay, go get a college degree, go get a job, etc. It's not gonna look like that. They're already seeing where entrepreneurship is going to be on a consistent rise, and a lot of it's based off of what's going on digitally too. And just that people are coming with a new mindset. Why would I sit here and work all of my life, you know what I'm saying, blood, sweat, and tears, and have nothing to show for it on the back end? You know what I mean? Or not, or very minimal to show for it. I mean, I guess it depends on you know where you're coming from, but hey, let's just be real. A lot of people, it's little to nothing to show for on the back end. You know, and they have to consistently keep up this ebb and flow of work and being disgruntled in order to survive. And so I thought his was very inspirational. I thought that was something that this generation could really see and grab onto. And it reminded me of that guy, John Henry. Is that guy's name? John Henry, the entrepreneur in New York, the real estate.
I followed him. I follow him now.
He's super dope guy. And your boy Mike, he really reminded me of that guy. That same vision and just like knowing like, okay, I'm gonna start here, because that guy started with like a laundry service. It was like a mobile laundry service, and it just transitioned into more. So, hey, I feel like that's something our youth could really grab hold to as well.
Yeah, you know, I'd be remiss not to mention, shout out to my homegirl Asia Munns out there in California, whose podcast I'm now producing, nice. Stories and Poems on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. You know, just that whole LA experience, man, it just taught me, like, people have gems to give. Even in your, like, the way you spoke about in episode number 18, the way you spoke about the African American men and a price being over our heads, and just that whole conversation. The real reason why I didn't do all I do now for the episodes now is because at the time I hadn't had my settings right when I edit the videos up, right?
That's fine.
I finally figured out how how it happened, and that was at the start of episode 19. That's why when we talk, I used to talk about that episode all the time.
Right.
So since then, man, I've been trying my best to make sure that people get, because people ain't gonna watch the whole episode. So Mike was the one that told me, hey man, you need to chop it up in clips. And when I look at people's podcasts on YouTube, that's what they're doing. So he imparts gems that, for me, I've always told him, and he told me one time, he was like, listen, if you're not retaining stuff that people are telling you, you need to write it down so that you can go back and look at it and see where you can implement it in whatever you're doing. Yeah. So I think that that episode was really, really good. I just couldn't wait. I mean, he was the first one that I brought on the podcast that was a creative but wasn't in the lane of which I didn't know which way I wanted to go. Because I know if I opened it up, then everybody would want to be like, all right, well, but I knew he specifically had gems to be able to tell people, and so people could connect with. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. So I needed him on. Good, but shout out to everybody that did the podcast from all 33 episodes.
Yeah, they're nice,
including the 3 I did myself. Yes. And moving forward up until episode 34, which is dropping on the on the 15th, this Tuesday. 6 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Can I tell them how we got here?
Go ahead.
This episode.
Go ahead.
So I talked to him, and he's like, "Man, I ain't even gonna lie."
Let me intercede you right quick. Like I think we mentioned it this episode. It becomes a job.
Yeah.
It becomes you're addicted. Yeah. I am addicted to dropping every Tuesday, and I will find a way to do it, even if I have to come on here and talk every Tuesday for a period of 15 to 20 minutes. You know what I'm saying? So go ahead.
But yeah, so he was like, man, I don't even know what I'm gonna do. I'm listening to him. He was like, yeah, I'm just gonna get on here. I guess I'm gonna talk because I don't have nobody lined up for this week coming up. And let me tell y'all, legit, I was surprised. I was like, what you been doing? You know, what's going on?
Because I slacked off after episode 33.
Right, and so I was like,
what up, Pierre?
And so I was like, huh? Yeah. And I was like, say, man, like, how about this? How about we do somewhat of a recap of the other episodes you've done up until now? I feel like it'll give a legit vibe, and you could really come on here and like really pay homage to the people who've come before now and has really blessed this podcast. Yeah. And we can get on here, just kind of shoot the shit in a sense, but still really highlight the people who've come before. That's really, and I thought that was a legit idea. Yeah. And this is what we gonna do when he don't know what. Yeah. But I have a feeling that he gonna get that schedule tight. Oh, yeah, like months in advance.
It's gonna be right. Hey, listen, you know what I wanted to say? Damn, I want to say episode 33, which is now playing on all my platforms. My homeboy Pierre Simon from college. You need to get his book.
Oh, okay.
His book is dope.
I will.
And your blog kind of reminds me of his book.
Oh, okay. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'll do that.
I think his book, which is available everywhere, the books can be bought.
You need to have like a what's next social, so you can get all the creatives in one spot, and we can like network and vibe.
It's coming soon.
I'm sorry, maybe I shouldn't have said that.
No, that's perfect. Today is October the 13th, 2019. Okay. And we have 79 days left in the 2019 year. What do you hope to attain in 79 days?
So, with my 79 days, I am going to, or this is what I'm gonna work towards. Detached from what it'll actually become, but I'm gonna work towards being very consistent, like my man here. No, I'm dropping every Thursday at 8 p.m.
ish.
One of the boys said that I like that too. Every time he said, look, ish, 8 p.m. ish. I thought that was hella hilarious.
It do be really ish.
But yeah, and so I want to be way more consistent. And then we have a project that you and I are doing where we are going to be doing something.
You want to do something.
Yeah,
you're putting a visual to one of your blogs.
Yeah, we're gonna be putting visuals.
All of them, but
we're gonna be putting visuals to the blogs. But hopefully by the end of the year, we'll at least have 5 visuals out. That's the goal.
No doubt.
And then the other things that I have planned, I'm just gonna put them in the works before I actually. Maybe that should come in a few minutes. So my wife has told me this, and
she's told me, listen, you need to have the creatives impart something on your audience, right? So you being an educator, myself being an educator, right? I preach consistency to my kids all the time, right? Mm-hmm. And so when they ask me what's next, I tell them the next episode is next. Okay. So you're in your classroom. Now you went from high school to now you're teaching junior high, right? Mm-hmm. Welcome to HISD first and foremost.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Okay, welcome back to HISD. Yeah, because you were at Cashmere first. Right. Welcome back to HISD. If there's a young girl or a young boy in your classroom now that you obviously have spotted and see that they have something going on more than just, you got some of the kids that are not on par at all. They don't care to be there. You got some kids that are bookworms, and then you have some kids that are creatives, the ones drawing and talking about rapping and doing all of that, just the creative side of things. What are you going to impart of them to get started, even at that age?
I give them an outlet to do it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I give them a space to be them. And I think it's very important. So all of my kids, they have journals. And I'll say today we're free write. You're free writing. You write about whatever you want to, etc. And I'm gonna tell y'all this. I teach ESL. So my kids, their first language is not English. Some is Swahili, some is French, a lot of Spanish. And so it is different languages, Arabic, etc. And sometimes the only way they know how to express to me is in pictures, is in drawings. And I'll allow them that. And sometimes they only know how to express what they want to express in their language. They don't know how to express it to me. And so I've always been a stickler in giving my kids ways to respond to what I want them to do, but in their way. And I tell my kids, like, I have a kid in my class right now, he loves cards. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I no lie, y'all, I feel like this dude is going to be in Vegas. You know what I'm saying? By the time he go through the motions of high school and et cetera, because that's what he loves. He really loves playing cards. He loves doing that. And I see that in him. So my thing is, I'm not trying to silence that in you. You know what I mean? That's your thing. Can you imagine going somewhere every single day where people are trying to deter you from something that you just genuinely love? I mean, that's how we get these zombies. You know what I mean? They just here. They don't know. They're missing their fire, but they don't know how. They don't know when it was put out. They don't know. They knew, but they know they didn't always feel like that. And so I'm looking at this child and I'm like, you know what? When we read articles, I'm going to give you articles about people playing cards. You know what I'm saying? Or a new game. When kids tell me they want to be a game and a YouTuber, this is how they do it. Like, here's an informational article, or this is how they do it. Here's a story about this, and that. And if you don't see it, you write it. I tell my daughter that all the time. If it's something that needs to be created that you don't see, then you think about how you're going to create it. You know what I mean? Because maybe that's a part of your journey, is to create the thing that you don't see. And so I try to give my kids that room, and it's like, yeah, we have things to do, but studies have shown when you give kids that space, they perform the best for you. And I can honestly say that my kids, people say, oh, that child, he acts this and that way in your class. How does he act in your class? Oh, he's great. How? Maybe because he's just allowed to be him. Maybe he doesn't have to put on a show for me and he's just allowed, maybe I don't say it like that, but I let him be, I don't let him be disrespectful. I don't let him be a tyrant to my other kids or him or her. But in the point of you just being you, be you, exist in your fire as much as you can. Revel in it, because that's what's going to be with you forever. I'm not going to be with you forever. This English class, algebra, social studies, it's not going to be with you forever. But me being able to give you the space to be you, that may be something that sticks with you forever. Maybe you could go back and say, you know what? Miss Green told me to just be the best me that I can be. Now that's something I don't let them slack on. If you tell me that you're a drawer and the ideal is for you to draw a comic strip or whatever, and I know you can draw, you don't get to slack, right? Like, no, this is what you said you're good at. Come on, give it 100%.
Yeah.
You know, you say you're a writer, give it 100%. You say you're a musician, give it 100%. Don't slack on that, because at that point, you're not really slacking on me. You're slacking on yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I just like to give my kids the room to be expressive in that fact, in that way. Because it's no point of them coming somewhere every day and being miserable just because they can't be themselves.
And I think that that's the subjectivity that English brings, because in math it's not like that.
Right, and I get that.
We're not,
which is why I hated math.
It's not a subjective subject where you can argue. You can't argue 2 and 2 is not 4.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But I'll tell you this, ironically, most of my kids, they come in my class, they hate reading.
Yeah.
They don't like it. And I say, well, what's your favorite subject? Math.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it? Now, is it now?
And the same with me. They hate math. Hate it. I only get a few that, know
a lot of kids like
science
times. Too. But shout out to science teachers, because I have seen innovative things in a lot of science classrooms since I've been teaching. So I feel like they're doing their thing.
So, what is your favorite blog that you've posted on Tempestt Lives before we wrap?
The one about me throwing out my damn mattress. It's really, I like that one because that's like my personality, like from start to finish.
Okay.
The one that I'm getting ready to post this week, I really like it, and I like it because I like what it's gonna offer the people that I'm writing to, the people that's gonna look at it and find something from it. Because this was, I must say, this is the first post that I wrote where as I was writing it, I felt like it wasn't a question. It's not a question in my mind. If this is gonna help somebody, I know that when someone reads it, it's gonna help them. No doubt. And I take my story like a story of whatever, me, doing my mommy thing. I take that story and I transition it into, hey, if you're going through this, then maybe you should try this. And once I did that, I can see the lane of my blog and my what we're doing, our visuals, and something else that I want to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
really
the nice. What's Next podcast is all about bringing the creatives out. And most importantly, the last question I'll ask is, what's next for Tempestt Green? What's next for TempestLives.com? So
what's next for me is to keep growing and maturing. I've been reading Atomic Habits. It's a really, really great book, and it's about, and one thing he says, motivation is not enough. You have to create an environment that fuels what you want to do. And I've looked around in my environment, my home environment, and more or less, and y'all, it's not fueling my creativity.
Yeah.
And so me personally, I just want to get to the point where I'm not just expressive with my words. I literally create an environment for my kids and I that channels that creativity in all of us. And then as far as TempestLives.com, like I said, I use my life as the foundation of that blog, and I'll just be really the things that I'm in a very much so transitional stage in my life, from work to parenting to relationships, and I mean like relationships, like not just friendships, but like a significant other. I'm going through a lot of different transitions in my life, and I'm excited to chronicle those and just see, and not to say, oh, it's easy and it's all good. No, that's not what it's going to look like. But just to say, hey, I get it. I'm here, and this is what I have to offer to that end. If you're here and you don't know quite what to do and where to go. Okay. So yeah, I really encourage y'all to come with me on this journey. It's good. It's good. And yeah.
TempestLives.com.
Yeah.
TempestLives.com. TempestLives.com. Bookmark that. I've bookmarked it on both phone and computer. So the last thing I'll say this before we wrap the episode, okay? Today you see me in this orange shirt, and that's because tonight we're playing the New York Yankees. Okay. And game 2 of the ALCS at Minute Maid Park, right? So what are your predictions tonight for us?
We're going to win.
Okay.
Damn that.
How many we going to win in New York?
We going to win how many we play in New York?
3.
We're going to win the next 3 after tonight. The next 3 are in New York?
Yes, if we don't win tonight, then the next 2 the next 2 will be in New York. Because we'd have to win. We'd have to win at least one of those to come back. Yeah. Well, no. We'd have to win 2 of them to come back if we don't win tonight.
I have faith in my Stros, man. We're gonna get it.
So I came in the What's Next orange and blue T-shirt.
Yes.
And so you said that you didn't want a black. You said that you didn't want a black SBI T-shirt, but there's no way that you could. This is a staple of the podcast.
Okay, and I wear it. I'm kind of glad because I looked at my old one and I was like, "Woo!"
Yeah, it's a staple of the podcast. But since I gave you this is episode number 18's tee that I wore, and this is episode number 34's tee that I'm wearing now for you.
Thank you so much because I'm wearing these to school tomorrow.
No doubt. So Houston, Texas, man, I do what I do for myself to prove that I can do it for others. Peace and blessings.
Yes.
Yo, it feel like 95. Sachi on my body. Biggie, jigger, puffy. All that ballin' is a hobby. And I'm wildin' in my wallies. And them valleys, no Pilates. More way, get you more wet. Nah, that's these Spumante. My crystal ball, I see crystal. I crystal y'all with that. I saw the sign like ace of spades. That ace of spades get cracked. We like, cheers to the money guys. The Willie niggas. Who buy them bottles. And then they spill these liquors. Yo, salute my dude. I see you, dog. 5 bottles, 1 dick. Why I need 2 bras? I know I'm out of line, but love is shower time. You know it rose rain when your cloud is 9. Get off that high ass hussy. This a private party. Been on my dick too long. Your breath on private party. You gon' be nice or naughty. These walls on priceless Audi. This the upper crust. Fuck is up.